Belarus has dozens of Russian nuclear weapons and is ready for its newest missile, is what they're saying. Now, some of the quotes in the Belarusian President Lukashenko's repertoire right now are pretty creepy. In fact, they're saying that they have actually moved quite a bit of nuclear weapons not only to Belarus, but they're even saying that nobody even noticed. Belarus authoritarian President Alexander Lukashenko said Tuesday his country is hosting dozens of Russian nuclear weapons and will prepare facilities for the planned deployment of Moscow's newest hypersonic ballistic missile. Of course, being the new one that they tested that went Mach 10 or plus Mach 10, whatever it was, when it was tested. And that missile was unstoppable, as they said. His remarks came after he and President Vladimir Putin signed a treaty last week that gave security guarantees to Belarus, Moscow's closest ally, including the possible use of Russian nuclear weapons to help repel any aggression. The pact follows Moscow's revision of its nuclear doctrine, which for the first time placed Belarus under the Russian nuclear umbrella amid the tensions with the West over the conflict in Ukraine. One thing that is pretty crazy is that this has always been something that, the U.S. has put all of these different countries under their umbrella. Well, now Russia is essentially placing their allies under their umbrella. It says, quote, "I have warned all my enemies, friends, and adversaries. If you step on the border, the answer will be momentary," Lukashenko said. And Lukashenko, who has ruled Belarus with an iron hand for over 30 years and has relied on Kremlin subsidies and support, allowed Russia to use his country's territory to send troops into neighboring Ukraine into 2022 to host some of its tactical nuclear weapons. Unlike nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles that can destroy entire cities, tactical nuclear weapons for use against troops on the battlefield are less powerful. Russia hasn't disclosed how many, but Lukashenko said Tuesday that his country has several dozen of them. And here's where the creepy quotes are. It says, "I have brought nuclear warheads here, and not just a single dozen of them." It says Lukashenko said in apparent reference to the tactical weapons, adding that the West has failed to track their deployment, and says, quote, "They haven't even noticed when we brought them here." So if that is true, that is an incredibly creepy thing, and it's something that even Dex and I have debated many times. Like, how can they actually track these things? Can they see the nuclear signature from space? How do they actually know what is being moved around? If this is true, then we have kind of an answer. Sometimes they can't. So if they really didn't notice, then that is a scary fact. We're going to talk about this and much, much more on tonight's show, so stick around. Don't go anywhere. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Remember, you have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to show you here today over on marfooglenews.com. You have a full list of every source for today's show, so make sure to head over there. If you have any questions, or if you're like, hey, where the heck did this come from? It is all at your fingertips. Let's bring in my co-host/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
And for today's show, as we have been doing for quite a while now, we'll have a map showing you where all of these are actually going down. So you also have a reference for the physical location of the world news. Now, as far as Belarus, talking about how they, excuse me, how they cannot track these things, I wonder how true that is. Also, they talk about tactical nuclear weapons, like many other MSMs have talked about it, that essentially these can be used on the battlefield. They keep reiterating that these are something that, this isn't going to destroy a city. This is something that can be used on the battlefield. I think it's only a matter of time before they start using tactical nukes. Using the big nukes, that's a whole different story. Those are war enders or war starters. But tactical nukes, I think that is something we will actually see quite soon, because it really depends on how pissed off one of the countries is. Dex, do you want to talk about U.S. disperses $20 billion Ukraine loan backed by profits from Russian assets?
Wow. So we were just sort of joking last night when we talked about them giving $1 billion from the Pentagon to Ukraine last night, that how much more are they going to come up with? Well, apparently it's actually not even 20 billion, it's 50 billion. So the first disbursement from the U.S. is 20 billion for this loan from the G7 support, and it's part of a $50 billion package that is going there. They're saying, and they're trying to make everybody feel good about it by saying, "Oh, don't worry, the money comes from a significant, comes from a lot of the things that we took from Putin and that we've been holding from the proceeds earned from Russia's own immobilized assets," is the quote they use, right? So we're supposed to just think that's the case. But yeah, $20 billion is going from the U.S. to Ukraine. And who thinks that loan's going to get repaid anytime soon? I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and the fact that they're even calling it a loan is crazy. Not to mention, they're saying that they got these assets from Russia. What are they selling, their tanks or something? And who are they selling their tanks to? Or they get their assets, they freeze their assets and then give them back. That's going to piss off Russia. Some people say, well, yeah, go ahead and piss off Russia. Screw them, they're Russia. While others say, don't poke the bear. This is going to piss them off supremely. So we'll see what happens there. I think, personally, this is a laundromat, and they just went to do another mega load. Those can, do like 4 or 6 loads at one time. That's what they just did.
And something's going to the big guy, right?
Yep, something for the big guy. And then MDA conducts first ever ballistic missile intercept test from Guam. Now, they moved the Iron Dome to Guam not too long ago, and we covered that because nobody really talked about it. It was really weird. When they moved the actual Iron Dome system there, nobody really kind of blinked or batted an eyelash. Whereas we looked at it and said, okay, why are they moving the Iron Dome there? We always hear about the Iron Dome in the Middle East and Israel, but we didn't really hear much about how it moved to Guam or how they had one there. Mind you, they just did this test shortly after. Who was it? Was it the Filipino? The Taiwanese president just went and did a tour of Guam. In fact, he did this whole big tour the very last day, the last stop, which I think was the main stop. He went to Guam. I think they gave him a tour of, say, the Iron Dome and some of their defensive systems. They say the Missile Defense Agency intercepted an incoming ballistic missile threat target in a test from Guam, according to a Tuesday agency announcement. The test is the first ballistic missile defense event executed from Guam. I told you guys back when they started moving stuff there that this was going to become a way bigger thing. And then, of course, Guam is a very strategic area, especially for Navy resources. But as far as the missile defense angle, they are definitely proving that Guam is going to be extremely important. As the Pentagon works to build an integrated air and missile defense architecture on Guam, this is the first test of a portion of the future capability designed to protect the key strategic island from emerging and evolving threats. Within the context of Homeland Defense, a top priority for the Department of Defense, Guam is also a strategic location for sustaining and maintaining United States military presence, deterring adversaries, responding to crises, and maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific region. So again, this isn't just missile defense. This is a supply hub. This is something that helped supply our military. In the test and Aegis Guam system, an AN/TPY-6 radar and vertical launching system fired a standard missile -3 block IIA interceptor, which then took out an air-launched medium-range ballistic missile target flying off of the coast of Andersen Air Force Base, according to the statement. An AN/TPY-6 radar, a new MDA system designed specifically for the Guam architecture and delivered there earlier this year, tracked the target from shortly after launch to the intercept. The new radar uses technology from MDA's long-range discrimination radar. I'm surprised we haven't heard this term before. Long-range discrimination. That's like where you're like, nope, I don't like you based on everything you do and your color. I don't know. Positioned in Alaska at Clear Space Force Station, which will have its own test next year ahead of declaring operational capability. Says, quote, "This is a tremendous group effort and provides a glimpse of how organizations within the Department of Defense have come together to defend our homeland Guam now and in the future." That was Lieutenant General Heath Collins. Collectively, we will use this to build upon and validate joint tracking architecture and integrated air and missile defense capabilities on Guam. I remember the comments that people, put down when I first talked about the Iron Dome moving there. People said, this is a strategic, even ex-military said, well, that's not going to be, it's a strategic hub and it's going to be somewhere where they can, refueling hub, that it's a supply hub, but that other islands are going to be more utilized. I said, I think from all of the things that they're doing here, that Guam is going to become even more important as far as missile defense. Now, fast forward a couple years, now this is in the news and now they're saying it. I mean, it's really simple to see. When they keep having these little reports of stuff moving somewhere, then it's going to end up being a very important strategic area. Same with Alaska and how they're moving HIMARS and all of these troops up to Alaska. Obviously, you can see what their priority is as far as the enemy. Russia is 55 miles away from Alaska. It makes sense. As far as Guam, I mean, we could see this coming. Dex, what do you think about them, doing these tests off of Guam, and do you think they're trying to keep on their toes?
Oh, yeah, I wonder, how much of this is to actually help protect the Navy in the waters around there. Although I think if they're in the waters, they're probably going to be a little closer to Philippines, and they won't be able to catch something in Guam that soon. But definitely, if they're further behind the line, so to speak, it could be another defense outside of just defending the island itself. I mean, obviously defending any missiles launched from China out towards the Pacific.
Yeah, when you look at the location of this, now let me refresh because otherwise I'll have to zoom in and find the dang thing. So if you zoom straight out, this is Guam. And it's crazy how far out this is, right? Here's the Philippines. Here's China. So if anywhere in China they launched a missile, it would go across. Guam is still right here. If you go straight across, you have the United States. So it would actually have to fire a missile up and then track and try to catch this thing midair while it's crossing the ocean. And then, of course, Hawaii is all beefed up, too. So these two places are extremely, extremely important for the defense of the United States in this portion of the ocean. I also wonder, could Guam... I don't think that they could obviously protect Taiwan. Nobody can protect Taiwan. I mean, think about that. Taiwan can't be protected from some of these things. There's no way. They're 120 miles off of the coastline. I mean, they might not even need to use anything like that, but it is crazy to think about how close Taiwan is. That's why I think that the U.S. is doing things and making moves that says that they're not trying to pretend like they're going to be able to stop it. That's why they're moving Intel and moving semiconductor chips and trying to move lithium here and do all sorts of other things, because they've already accepted it's going to be gone. Before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. We've recommended for years to, of course, know about what an EMP is, an electromagnetic pulse attack, but also to protect yourself against from one. This is a device that will ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before it's able to fry your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, generators. Essentially, it grounds it, and then it will keep your car running so you can get home to your family or get out to bug out. If you work far from home, then it's definitely a very smart thing to do. It takes 10 minutes to put on your car. It's really easy. Again, this also protects against a Carrington-level event from the sun. So if we do have a solar event pop off, it's headed for Earth, or it pops off and hits down our entire grid, at least you know your stuff will work. As far as your generators to power your items, you'll have your home protected in your car, so you'll basically have everything, even if the grid doesn't come back on. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and make sure to use the code MARF. Almost every prepper understands the importance of this. Again, it is something that is definitely one of the higher priority tiers for even the United States as far as EMP resilience. DHS even says that we should have 6 months to a year worth of food just in case we lose our entire power grid. So again, make sure to go check it out, marfooglenews.com/EMP. And then that helps us, and it gives you a $50 off discount per device. So make sure to, of course, share our show out over everything. But if you do want to protect yourself, do it at the same time as helping your favorite channel. And then Dex, talk about the historic campaign across Syria. IDF says it destroyed 80% of Assad regime's military.
Yeah, so the IDF is cleaning house now that Russia's out of the airspace. Now that there's sort of free reign, or at least this opportunity for them to go in there. They announced today, after a 48-hour campaign in Syria, that the IDF has destroyed most of the former Bashar al-Assad regime's strategic military capabilities. Obviously, they were going after some of the most worst weapons, like chemical weapons and things like that. The statement from the IDF said both the Air Force and the Navy had carried out over 350 strikes against strategic targets in Syria since the fall of Assad over the weekend, taking out most of the strategic weapon stockpiles in Syria. They did estimate that they have destroyed at least 70 to 80% of their capabilities as a whole. So obviously they've been busy. It's an opportune time, but they also don't want to see whoever the new leader is, or whatever power comes to be there and how it forms. They don't necessarily want them to have all of that weaponry that Assad had, which could then be obviously used against Israel or anyone else in the Middle East. So they took it upon themselves to take it all out.
Sorry, that wouldn't load for a second here. So why don't they call this what it is? This is a West op. In my opinion, they're pretending like this was a totally organic guy that, was part of Al-Qaeda, and now he's a revolutionary. They've got a PR department around him. They've got CNN exclusive interviews. Almost anything exclusive from CNN it's like a golden rule. All of the exclusives from CNN all have had the same thing in common. Ganda. And I'm telling you, they have put this guy up on a pedestal. They have interviewed him, even though he's got a $10 million freaking price on his head from the U.S. government. They're even questioning about taking him off the watch list because his group has just helped him out so much. Right after this, Israel and the U.S. bombed the crap out of it and now have taken out all of the nasty stuff in it. I mean, call it what it is. But again, Russia knows this. All of our adversaries know that this was a West op. I'm surprised, Dex, in my opinion, I'm surprised Russia's not fully calling this out. How are they not? Do you think that they're keeping this on the low because something else is planned?
I think they realized quickly that they were going to lose and they couldn't support it. and hold it up with their own capabilities at the moment. And I think now they're deciding how they're going to play. And we'll talk just a minute what they did with their Navy, but that plays, a pretty significant role, or it did at one time. And the naval and the air, the air space that was managed by Russia with their planes.
See, I think that Russia doesn't want to admit that this is a U.S. op. Like, they know it is. I think they don't want to do it because then they're admitting to their people that they completely backed out because they couldn't do anything about it. Like, they told their citizens, hey, get out by any way possible the day before all of this went down. Which, if you were there, gosh, that was a day's notice before all of this went down. They were saying, hey, Russians, get out. I told you that night. I said, when they do this, it's usually right before a big event. By 1 a.m. the next day, they had taken Damascus. I mean, this is clearly coordination between us and this guy on the watch list. Just saying. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Which, by the way, I will pull up that tweet. I wanted to see what the final was on how many of you thought that that guy was helped by the U.S. So I will get that here in a second. In fact, Dex, do you want to go over the charred remains of Syrian ships after Israel strikes?
Well, as we reported right before this went down, Russia pulled their ships out. They evacuated. They retreated. But the rest of the Syrian ships that were there, this is what it looks like. They are all the hulks and holes are destroyed and sinking in the water, and it just looks like a mess. That's just one image of probably many that are happening in that area. I'm sure that most of this was probably from the IDF strikes, maybe some of the U.S., but I think typically the U.S. strikes, they were trying to go after. They were trying to make it look like they were going after that IS group, and not necessarily doing what the IDF was doing. So I think the IDF had their own position, which was destroy the bad weapons and then take out all the military capabilities, and in this case also wiping out the entire Navy that was there. So completely gone.
Now I'm going to pull this up here. This was the final results from the survey here. I asked, do you think that the U.S. helped or allowed Syria to be taken over and regime changed? 87.7% said yes. 2.6% said no, this was organic, and 9.7%, under 10%, said we didn't help, we allowed. And Antonio Raquin says, if by U.S. helped allowed, do you mean CIA backdoor color revolution? Anonymous said Israel helped and the U.S. allowed them to. Kent Reader says, love you the show. No F's given says, does a bear crap in the woods? Of course, Captain Obvious. Hey, no F's given. Look at how many people aren't seeing the obvious. And then, Mr. Erlen, there's another front to be threatened and negotiate between Russia, Germany, America, and Britain, Israel's borders or not. Jade Hansen, we helped. Awaken Canadian says it was U.S. and Israel. I mean, it's pretty unanimous that most everyone thinks this. I don't know why so much of the media is not just straight up calling it out. Obviously, we don't have journalists anymore. There's almost no such thing anymore. So if they are, they're usually on, Substack or something. And then satellite imagery shows Russian Navy ships anchored off of the Syrian coast. So obviously they were mobbing in and they're moving Navy. Satellite imagery shows that Russian naval ships have left Moscow's base at Tartus at Syria's coast, and some have dropped anchor offshore following the overthrow of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad by rebel forces. By you-know-who forces. An image taken December 9th by Planet Labs showed at least 3 vessels in Russia's Mediterranean fleet, including 2 guided missile frigates and an oiler moored around 13 kilometers northwest of Tartus. The rest of the fleet could not immediately be located in satellite imagery. So there could be more, and there's more to that fleet. Syrian rebels seized the capital Damascus on Sunday after lightning advance that sent Assad fleeing to Russia after a 13-year civil conflict and 54 years of his family's autocratic rule. Moscow, which was an ally of the Assad regime for decades, is now scrambling to make a deal with the rebels to guarantee the safety of two strategically important military bases. I don't know if they're how did they say it? Scrambling. Russia has a major airbase in the coastal city of Latakia and its naval facility in Tortus. So see what this is. See this for what it is. Those are two very strategic Russian bases, and they just took over this area. And if you know that this is the U.S. and the West, this is straight up war without declaring war. I mean, Dex, we're already in a war with Russia directly. They're just not admitting it.
Yeah, they don't want to say it on paper or out in front in the public, in the papers. But yeah, it's clear. I mean, look, that's what's happening. Now, here's the other thing. Are the Russian ships parked off the coast? Are they there because they're waiting to come back in? They're waiting to strategize to engage? Is there something else that's going to happen? Or are they just anchored up there because they were just trying to get out in a hurry and they'll eventually lift anchor and go home? That's an interesting question. Like, what's up with the rest of their Navy?
Yeah, this is so shady, the whole thing. This is straight up an op between the U.S. attacking something that affects Russia's direct bases. So this is an act of war that they can't say is an act of war yet. So we'll see. Watch what is the response going to be? That's what I wonder. By the way, thank you, Waiting for the King. I appreciate your support on the show. By the way, thank you, new members. Viv B, thank you for, again, becoming a member. Adam Hunt, thank you for subscribing. Randy, thank you for subscribing. Teresa, thank you for subscribing. And Swetnam Ministries, Tube is censoring. Damascus is close, so is the taking away the rapture, which will be blamed on the Greys. And let me read it on this other page here so I can see it clearly, because it's hard to read on this other page. I don't know why. Damascus fall is close, as is the taking away rapture, which will be blamed on Greys, and the MOB is all close. Well, as far as I think if you're talking about the rapture, what are people's opinions on the rapture? Do you believe we're in the final days? Do you look at what's happening in the Middle East as one of the further signs of that? And as far as Damascus, I mean, Damascus is now taken over by these people they're saying is this group. I don't necessarily believe it. I think that they just did a massive military op, and what is going to be the response? That's my question. And then Elon Musk has wowed by Google's new quantum chip, which it claims cracks a key challenge that's existed for almost 3 decades. Dex, do you want to talk about this as far as why he is wowed?
They launched this new chip, and they just announced it, and they're turning heads, so to speak, including that of the richest man, Elon, with the announcement of its new quantum chip called Willow. In a Monday blog post, the founder and lead for the quantum AI group said that the Willow chip paves the way for a full-scale quantum computer that can benefit society by advancing scientific discovery, developing helpful applications, and tackling some of society's greatest challenges. I question that philosophy there, but here's the gist of it. So let me give you a little bit more about the Elon stuff. So after Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai announced Willow on social media X, Elon responded with wow, and then they engaged in a back and forth conversation. He said we should do quantum cluster in space with Starship one day, and of course Elon said that will probably happen. So a little love fest there between Pichai and Elon. But this chip, what's so special about it is it was developed by Google, and it can perform computations that would take a regular computer longer than the age of the entire universe to actually execute. So if you can imagine how much faster that is, if you take the entire time that the universe has existed according to space theoretical physicists, you take that amount of time, take a standard computer today, make it run an algorithm, it'll take that much time to complete it, where this will do it instantly. So that's a super massive improvement. But the fact that they're getting it down to a chip, and probably not a small chip, it's probably rather big, but getting it down to something that is going to not be these giant rooms in a research lab, where they're doing quantum computing, but it's not like practical. It's just in theory. They're taking this and bringing it to the practical sense where they can start to put it into some hardware, give it a monitor and a keyboard, so to speak, make it be usable in a real form factor that could be used in a research or business setting. Now, what's scary is what are they going to do with it? And, imagine taking AI algorithms and slapping it into a machine like that. I think we'd be over in a heartbeat.
So I know so many people that are fans of Elon, but one thing that is super, super clear. When you see him get in that robo-taxi, I think about all the people I know that are making ends meet by doing Uber, and essentially the cab was taken out by Uber. There's almost no cabs anymore. Tried to call one for my daughter like last month. It was like an hour and a half wait just to see, and it might not actually come. So of course Uber is the thing that killed the cab. Well, the robo taxi is going to supposedly kill the Uber, and it really could. I mean, think about it. These driverless cars are going to take that job just straight off the market. As far as the chips and everything that's going on, even if we don't have a rapture or the end of the world, it is going to be the end of the world as we know it. Because think about it. He has made the same quote. He has said, your best hope for the future is having a universal income. Dex, a universal income is straight up basically everybody gets the same amount. I mean, we're talking about like Star Trek, like where money doesn't actually matter, that you all kind of have the same thing. This is what they see in the future, and how would it be any other way if every single job is going to be replaced? Especially with stuff like this quantum chip that's, they're moving forward with these chips. That will make all of the more advanced chips that aren't to quantum, everything is going to come down this scale. I mean,
it certainly sounds like it's got a lot of overlaps with the other isms like socialism and communism, but in this sense, everyone will like it because they can just sit around and be lazy and play video games all day, and live their life doing nothing or doing whatever the something is that's useless that is important to them that they want to do, as opposed to being a productive, by today's standards or yesterday's standards, we probably should say, member of society where you put forth, you work, you produce, you raise children, you bring children into the world, you do whatever, right? It's going to come to a place where we don't do any of that. We just sit back and plug into the matrix, so to speak.
It's exactly what we're going to do. This is a scene from WALL-E, and it pegged it pretty well. I mean, how else would it happen? I mean, otherwise, maybe there's going to be people there that won't let this happen, and that's why a war will be triggered, is they don't want the world to go this direction. The fact that he's talking back and forth, they're having these like bromances. Again, I guess I think there are some CEOs that should completely be replaced. Some of these conversations happened with some of those. And that's coming from my perspective of being on certain places for years now and going through absolute hell. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Jace. If you don't have a backup kit or a health kit that has antibiotics in it, this is a very easy way to do it. You do a telehealth appointment with a board-certified doctor, and you can get yourself all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics. These come in extremely clutch. It can obviously change it from a cut on your finger to a funeral. Something like that can go extremely bad if we didn't have all of the modern advancements we do now. As far as this goes, very easy. It does not take long, and you can get yourself a kit that you can even add on to. You can even add on things like albuterol and fluconazole and others, even the stuff that, of course, Joe Rogan liked and CNN didn't like. So make sure to go check it out. marfooglenews.com/Jace. And you can also go over and check out Jace Daily. Ask about it because you might be able to get a 12-month extended supply of your prescription meds. That way, if the power goes out on Tuesday and there are no hospitals, there are no pharmacies to go to, you will still have a year of your regular medications. marfooglenews.com/Jace, Jase, and make sure to use the code MARF. Again, thank you guys for going through us. That will not only give you a huge discount, but it will also help us at the same time. And then Free Luigi is trending as support surges for the person who took out the healthcare CEO. This whole thing gets wilder. They released the whole manifesto. Dex, were you able to read the manifesto yet?
Oh yeah, I read it.
Everybody was unanimously saying, well, this was wrote by somebody else. I don't know. What did you think about the manifesto? It was only released probably 3-4 hours ago or something like that.
Well, it fulfilled exactly what my I guess I would say my fantasy in my head of when this first happened. When like the day it happened, they said, "Oh, the CEO of United Health was taken out on the streets." The first thing that popped in my head was this person who was wronged by the company, probably not him himself, but someone else and a family member, right? That was the first thing that sort of swooped into my mind, and that's exactly what came out in the letter. So to that, it was like, okay, well, they just gave us what we all expected to see. But on the flip side, if it's true, then I guess it's not unfathomable. He's not the only one. Like there's a massive, massive problem with healthcare in America. No matter, I can't think anybody here could raise their hand and say they love our healthcare. There's nobody that's going to love the costs or any of it, unless you're just completely taken care of by some system. It just doesn't. There's nobody that says it's good right now. So. On the flip side, it's not unfathomable to think that scenario could actually be true and that the letter could be true. But man, a lot of things on this just, makes you question.
Yeah, I don't believe it. I saw whose coverage was it? It was the Quartering, because right when the manifesto came out, he was pretty Johnny on the spot. He put out a video covering it, but right off the bat he was kind of thinking, oh, he must have wrote this like last second when he was in McDonald's. And I think that a lot of people are going to be hook, line, and sinker with this. Many of even his own comments, not one person said they agreed with that. They were like, no, they had 5 days to come up with something, and this is what they came up with. It basically doesn't even directly put blame on the healthcare system. It to me, it looks like it's a cover for something else, but that's just my opinion. Obviously, there was stuff around trading and things like that. More people are along the lines of believing that than whatever this is. And then mystery New Jersey drones go dark when spotted. The actual governor is commenting on this and saying that the minute you get your eyes on them, they go dark. Dex, I gave more of my opinion over on our news short, but what do you think about these things going dark the second people look at them? I think it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that they probably go in dark all the time. You just happen to catch them when they're lit, and then they go dark. But maybe they're looking at just you and know that you're looking at them. Maybe it's Santa up there, and because he knows if you've been naughty or nice, and he knows what you're doing. So maybe that's the case. But nonetheless, these these drones, as they're calling them, there's a lot of theories about what they're doing. We covered a great bit of it on our news channel, so the Marfoogle News. So if you want to see that short, go check it out. Everything from potentially one crash landing to people saying that they've had interference from electronics when they're in range of these, to some saying they're the size of cars. I think there's even reports of these things. There's reports of these things looking just like airplanes. Oh wait, that's because some of them are actually airplanes, because plenty of people are misinforming us with their images of drones, which are really just planes going through the sky. But there are drones out there. There's something out there that's causing this problem. Lots of people are seeing it. It's happened every single night except for Thanksgiving, the only night they didn't see them. So
yeah, because the guy
off.
flying them is with his actual family, and he couldn't skip that. I'm sorry, I think this is and why would it have lights on it? Why would it? If you were trying to go stealth, why would you have lights on it? Why would a UFO? It would have its legal blinking lights for what reason? Is it because they eventually, when they do get caught with this thing, they don't want to actually get federal charges or something? They go dark the second you look at them. Well, probably because they have cameras pointed at you, and when there's somebody going, "Hey, look at that," they turn off their lights. I mean, it's pretty easy to see when you're up in the sky when somebody's looking up at the drone. I mean, I flew the Mavic 2 Pro and all of the ones prior. I stopped after the Mavic 2 Pro getting DJIs, but it's pretty easy to see when somebody's looking at you. But as far as going dark, it's like, how many of you believe this is a UFO? How many of you believe this is China? How many of you believe it's the U.S. government? How many of you believe that it's somebody in their garage, messing with people? I am leaning along the lines of somebody that has made a private drone. I know that people have made these. It is not hard to get the parts to make these drones. People have made drones that can actually carry people. If you remember, there was a 6-bladed drone that carried Casey Neistat when he snowboarded over people for like a Coca-Cola commercial. These have been around for years, and now you can actually get the parts to make these massive big ones that are able to actually carry people. The future, you might have people riding on these down the street. So I don't know. I think it's just a private group that's doing it, and they don't have any of the restrictions that any of the other DJIs have because it is homemade. But that's my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments down below. But I also haven't seen it myself. If you've seen it in person, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Grid Down Bug Out. Just real quick, go over to marfooglenews.com/bugout. If you want a full system for your house, or if you even want a power wall, then go check these out. They have a huge selection of different units, including ones that you can actually get over a 30% 30% tax rebate on. Go over to marfooglenews.com/bugout. 6,000 peak power output and 3,000 continuous watt continuous. So this thing is a beefy boy. Yeah, you can plug your 30 amp port right into the back of it. The plug is all built in. You will never lose it. This thing is absolutely awesome. It is a solar generator, so you can charge it either from the wall or from the sun. So again, go check it out, marfooglenews.com/bugout. It helps support us, and of course, you get a massive discount. It is all EMP protected. These all come with an EMP shield already included. So keep that in mind as well. All right. And then thank you everybody that made it tonight. And I appreciate all of you that were able to make this later time. Again, just to remind you, we are going on earlier. We've had a lot of crazy stuff going on in our household. So as far as it has been a bad week. So thank you guys for the patience on the consistency this week. So thank you. And I frankly was burning the candle at both ends. So thank you everybody for coming, and I appreciate you, and I will see you tomorrow with the rest of the news. Thank you, Dex. Thank you for your service today.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, it is now time for the shoutro. Craig Alicious says a 1959 novella Babylon depicts World War III starting after a Russian base in Latakia, Syria, is accidentally attacked. Really good book. I recommend it. So that is, again, Alas, Babylon, a 1959 novel says that World War III starts after a Russian base in Latakia, Syria, is accidentally attacked. Well, that would be crazy. That's some crazy predictive programming, if I say so myself. I will check it out. Craigalicious, thank you. And Sweatinum, thank you. You both tied tonight. Thank you for being the top supporters. And again, sorry for everybody that's over on DLive that we can't make it over there. X, for the time being, we will try to get back streaming on those platforms. Thank your mods by going over to marfooglenews.com/friends. Again, you have all of the awesome mods right there at your fingertips. So go over and subscribe. Make sure to show them love. Thank you, Wages. Thank you, Trinity, Ilea, RGL, Rip Curl, Lisa, Jammer, Optical Jam, of course, CJ Blaze, Chance Paladin, and Bones. Thank you, guys. Love you. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.